By the end of this lesson, you should be able to simplify a given set into its basic form or lowest form. So, you see, when you say set, we have rational numbers and irrational numbers. So when you take the rational numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like this, and you put square root on them, like this, then you can clearly see that square root of 1 is 1, root 2 will be the same root of what? 2. Square root of 3 will be what? Root 3. Square root of 4 will be what? 2. Root of 5 will be the same as root of what? 5. Root 6 remain the same root 6. Root 7, Root 8 will be 2 root of 2. And root 9 will be 3. Root 10 will be root 10. So when we take our time and check the kind of results, you see that root of 1, the result is a whole number, or it's a rational. And root of 4 is also a rational. Root 9, the result is also what? Rational. And we're going to check root 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. You see that their results gives irrational numbers. So this means the numbers under the radical sign, that gives irrational numbers are called what? Set. Or we can also say that the root of rational numbers, which are not perfect squares, are called what? Set. So we see that 1 here is a perfect square, 4 is a perfect, 9 is also what? A perfect. That's why when you take square root of 1, you get a rational number. Root 4, you get rational, and root 9 is also what? A rational. So when in simple term, when you say a set is a root of rational numbers which are not perfect squares. So now let's move on to the basic form. So when you say a set is a basic form, meaning that set cannot be simplified to its lowest word form. And a set is said to be is not in basic form, meaning that set has a perfect square as what? Factor. For instance, root of 8. You see that root 8, the perfect factor of 8 is what? 4. And the imperfect factor is what? 2. So root 8 is the same as root 4 times root 2. Since the 4 here is a perfect factor, then root of 4 is what? 2 times root 2. Then you get what? 2 root 2. So you see, when a set is in a basic form, if the number under the radical sign has no perfect square as a factor. So for instance, root of 2, root 3, root 5, root 13, root 17, and so on. Let's check the numbers under this radical sign or square root sign. 2. What is the perfect factor of 2? There's no perfect factor of 2. When you check 3, there's no perfect factor of 3. 5, there is no perfect factor of what? 5. 13, 17, 19, and so on. You see, there's no perfect factor of these numbers. On this note, we can therefore say that these sets are in their basic form. So A root B is said to be in basic form if and only if the B, that's the number under the radical sign, has no perfect square as a factor. So that's the meaning of basic form of a set. So now let's express the following sets in their basic form. So the first example, you have to express root of 12 into its basic form. So when you check this root 12, since the 12 has a perfect factor, meaning it is not in its what? Basic form. And the perfect factor of 12 is what? 4. So the perfect factor of 12 is what? 4. Root of 4 times root of what? 3. The 3 is the imperfect or the said one. So root of 4 is what? 2 times root of what? 3. Then finally we get 2 root of what? 3. So when we get root of 12 to simplify, this is the result. So the second example, suppose we have root of 18. So root of 18, we have to sit down, check the factors of 18. So among the factors of 18, which one is a perfect factor? The perfect factor is what? 9. So we have root of what? 9. And 9 times which number will give you 18? Is 9 times what? 2. That's root 2. And finally, root of 9 is 3 times root 2. Then we are going to get 3 root what? 2. So this is how to simplify a set to its what? Basic form. Another example, we have root of 500. So we are to reduce this set to its basic form. So now let's take our time and check the factors of 500. So among these factors, which factor is a perfect factor? So meaning, you know that 100 is a perfect factor. So 100 times which number will give you 500? It's 100 times what? 5. So square root of 100 is what? 10 times root 5. The final answer will be 10 root of what? 10 root of 5. So now let's simplify root of, that example 4, root of 162. So on this note, you have to take time, check the factors of 162, the perfect one, and the perfect one is what? 81. 81 times which number will give you 162? It's number what? 2. So pick these two numbers, which is equal to, that's root of 81 times root of what? 2. So root of 81 is what? 9 times root 2. And then final answer is what? 9 root 2. And this is how to go by it. So our last example to look at. Is example 5. The root of 50,000. So we have square root of 50,000. So and we have to reduce this to its basic form. So for us to reduce this to its basic form, then we have to check the factors of 50,000. The one which is perfect and the one which is not what? Perfect. So 50,000, the perfect factor of 50,000 is what? 100,000. times, sorry, it's 10,000 times 5. So 10,000 times 5 is what? 50,000. And the root of 10,000 is what? 100 times root of 5. And finally, root of 50,000 is equal to 100 root 5. Now, let's try our hands on this question. Suppose we have root of 80. Now take your time and solve this question yourself. So root of 80, you have to take your time and go through all the procedures. Check the 80, the factors of 80. Among the factors of 80, check the one which is the perfect factor. When you get the perfect factor, then use that perfect factor to reduce root 80 to its basic form. Thank you for watching me on Anum Solomon TV.